Why, until the moment of his death, the monster emperor of the Fire Monster County could never understand how a mere soul-refining tribe, an insignificant second-rate force, could swallow and completely dominate the Fire Monster County. Originally, after Wang Lin left the land of monster spirits, the 9 great monster counties never took a force like the soul-refining tribe seriously. However, they could not withstand the rapid rise and cultivation of 13, whose strength had grown to the point where even monster generals were unable to contend with him. At the same time, Xianxia's soul flags were equally terrifying, capable of summoning hundreds of millions of souls for slaughter. Thus, under the leadership of these two, the soul-refining tribe became truly unstoppable, victorious in every battle, with Wang Lin slaughtering 100,000 monster soldiers of the Fire Monster County. The two sides formed an irreconcilable blood feud. Moreover, according to the agreement between Wang Lin and ancient demon Beiluo, Wang Lin was to assist Beiluo in devouring the ancient monster spirits of the remaining 8 monster counties. This destined Wang Lin to become an enemy of the Fire Monster County. After Beiluo helped Wang Lin successfully suppress San Mo, he appointed Wang Lin as his emissary and mobilized 30 million troops, formally declaring war on the Fire Monster County. Although conflicts had always plagued the land of monster spirits, a life-and-death war between 2 monster counties of this scale was unheard of. Once the balance of the heavenly monster 9 counties was broken, it would trigger an unimaginable chain reaction. However, Wang Lin did not rush to join the battlefield. With his cultivation only at the early ascendant stage, it was difficult for him to fulfill his pact with the ancient demon. Thus Wang Lin returned to the soul-refining tribe, expanding its territory while dispatching tens of thousands of clansmen to the battlefield between the 2 counties. He also left a strand of slaughter chi within each of them. Anyone slain by these clansmen would transform into life force, merging into the slaughter chi. After several decades, the soul-refining tribe had grown into the largest tribe within the heavenly monster county. Through this war between the 2 counties, Wang Lin successfully gathered millions of strands of slaughter chi, greatly enhancing his own combat strength. Next, Wang Lin arrived at the Fire Monster County as promised, and successfully assisted the ancient demon in completing the devouring. From that moment on, ancient demon Beiluo became the strongest among the remaining 8 demons, and regained the ability to freely leave his monster county. Thus, even without Wang Lin's help, Beiluo could continue leading the heavenly monster county to devour other monster spirits, until the turmoil within the land of monster spirits gradually came to an end. To evade the all-seer Tian Yunzi, as well as the Blood Ancestor and other old monsters, Wang Lin was forced to flee into the Latian Star domain. Without Wang Lin's presence, the soul-refining tribe could only be considered a second-rate force within the land of monster spirits, still far inferior to the 9 great monster counties. However unwilling to disappoint Wang Lin, 13 trained relentlessly day and night. After several hundred years, Xianxia had refined 99 soul flags, with which he could summon hundreds of millions of souls for slaughter. His combat power was likewise formidable. Meanwhile, the soul-refining tribe continuously devoured tribes within the Fire Monster County, its population growing to several million, becoming the largest power within both the Fire Monster County and the Heavenly Monster County. What puzzled many was that despite the soul-refining tribe's rampant expansion, ancient demon Beiluo showed no intention of stopping it. By this time, the Fire Monster County had already been completely fragmented. Only a single force known as the Fire Monster Spirit Army remained in control of the Fire Monster County's capital, commanded by 2 monster generals and 8 monster commanders, whose strength could not be underestimated. The Heavenly Monster County had also suffered heavy losses in the Great War of the past, and thus was unable to capture the Fire Monster capital for a long time, eventually choosing to abandon the attempt. Yet this decision inadvertently gave the soul-refining tribe its opportunity. After several hundred years of patience, under 13's command, the soul-refining tribe launched the war to seize the county. At this moment, millions of soul-refining tribe clansmen, carrying statues of Wang Lin, completely surrounded the Fire Monster County's capital. Upon seeing this, Monster General Scorpion Gold of the Fire Monster Spirit Army was consumed by rage. Knowing that his forces could not possibly oppose the soul-refining tribe, he resolved that even in death, he would destroy Wang Lin's statue, trampling upon the faith of the soul-refining tribe. However, at the instant Scorpion Gold approached the statue, 13 appeared behind him, coldly declaring, Anyone who dares harm my master's statue death without mercy. With that, 13 unleashed an unstoppable punch, and Scorpion Gold's body instantly collapsed, turning into a cloud of blood mist that dispersed between heaven and earth. Next, Ouyang roared soul extinction. Oodisi Spigmen Soretistas. Millions of soul-refining tribe members raised their soul flags, and in an instant, countless souls blotted out the sky, surging toward the Fire Monster County's capital. Seeing this, Monster General Mu Yun let out a soft sigh, and ultimately had no choice but to lead the Fire Monster Spirit Army in surrender. From that day onward, the Fire Monster County became the capital territory of the soul-refining tribe, which in turn rose to become one of the 9 great powers of the land of monster spirits. Ultimately, the reason the soul-refining tribe could grow so rapidly was because Wang Lin had laid an exceptionally solid foundation. Furthermore, 13 was indeed a talent worth cultivating. Even without Wang Lin's guidance, his cultivation advanced at astonishing speed. In addition, Ancient Demon Beiluo's refusal to interfere was also out of respect for Wang Lin, especially after Wang Lin returned once more to the land of monster spirits. Ancient Demon Beiluo had already devoured every remaining monster spirit. His power had surged beyond all expectations, rising countless times over what it once was. At that point, no monster county, no ancient force, could truly stand on equal ground with him. Yet even with such overwhelming strength, Beiluo still chose restraint. In order to obtain a single opportunity, the qualification to enter the Immortal Emperor's cave abode, he willingly handed over 4 major monster counties to the soul-refining tribe, not as a bargain forced by weakness, but as an offering made with full awareness of Wang Lin's value. And with that decision, Beiluo swore a solemn oath. From that moment on, he would never interfere in the soul-refining tribe's future, nor obstruct its rise in any form. It was this choice, quiet, calculated, and irreversible, that sealed the fate of the land of monster spirits. Thus, even at the moment of his death, the Monster Emperor of the Fire, Monster County, could never comprehend the truth. He could never imagine that the foreign cultivator he once deemed insignificant, the man he had ordered 100,000 monster soldiers to surround and erase, would become the very cornerstone of a new era. From a nameless outsider to the architect behind an unstoppable force, from a forgotten cultivator to the legacy that elevated a small, overlooked tribe into the strongest power the land of monster spirits had ever known. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating.